When you think of Japanese superheroes, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Astroboy? The Sailor Moon franchise? My Hero Academia characters? Well, everybody has their favorite Japanese superhero, and there are a variety of ways they express that. From posters, to cosplays, to figurines, and so on. Obviously, Japanese media has made a lot of influence in the US. But what about the other way around? What American superhero comes to mind when Japanese people think of our culture? Spider-Man. From what I've gathered, while a decent amount of Marvel superheroes have a good recognition, Spider-Man seems to remain the highest American superhero rank in Japan. Why is that? Well, there's a long-running history of reception, so I'll explain as much as I can based on research and my overall knowledge. To start off, in an interview with game director Hideo Kojima, he explained why Spider-Man was his favorite American comic book character and compared him to other Japanese superheroes. Things like how he saw Marvel movies from the early 2000s. He viewed X-Men as a stylish motion picture for adults, but with the early Spider-Man films from the Sam Raimi era, he says the age bracket dropped a little bit and viewed them as youth fantasy films. He also saw similarities Spider-Man had with other Japanese superheroes like Kaimen Rider and Tiger Mask. Don't you think how Spider-Man was originally a normal person who, because of an accident, became a masked superhero has similarities to Kaimen Rider? He asked. Kaimen Rider is a regular person who was kidnapped by an evil terrorist organization and turned into a grasshopper mutant who then escapes, dons a mask, and battles evil. Obviously, he doesn't mean that Spider-Man and Kaimen Rider are the same. They are very, very different, nor does it necessarily matter which was first, because there are enough thematic similarities that make the American character appealing to those who grew up with masked Japanese heroes, like the iconic characters Kaimen Rider, literally Masked Rider, or Tiger Mask, a do-gooder wrestler in a tiger mask. Kojima praised the film Into the Spider-Verse for its animation and art, combining live action, full CG, Japanimation, puppet anime, tokusatsu, manga, American comic, and graffiti. He even stated he saw similar themes between it and two of his own projects, Trans-Pacific Partnership and Death Stranding. The history of Spider-Man in Japan goes back way further in the early 1970s with Spider-Man the manga. Instead of Peter Parker, the main character's name is Yu Komori. His origin is similar, as he does get bit by a spider, but he doesn't exactly become a hero by learning the great power, great responsibility thing from losing a father figure. From what I've read, he was apparently motivated by financial desperation at first, and hoped to make 1 million yen per year. This started with trying to help his pen pal and crush, Rumi Shiraishi, whose mother was struggling with medical bills. With the cyborg villain Electro running around and robbing millions of yen, the Joho newspaper offers 100,000 for Electro's capture. So Yu suits up and takes the offer, determined to help Rumi and his Aunt May, who was already widowed before Yu got his powers. During a battle with him, Spider-Man finishes Electro with one punch, unmasks him, and is revealed to actually be Rumi's older brother. He reveals he is that way because he accidentally hit a child and had to pay a 50,000 yen settlement. He had a variety of jobs, including as a race car driver, boxer, and jazzman. The child's father was also an electricity professor who used Electro like a puppet, and then he died. Although the media believed him to be a hero, and Rumi was grateful she got the money, Yu was ashamed of himself, wondering if his powers were a good thing. This manga series had a more mature and gritty tone to it, unlike the original Stan Lee series, which were comedies mixed with drama. A live-action Japanese Spider-Man TV show premiered in 1978, produced by Toei Company in collaboration with Marvel. Unlike Peter Parker getting powers from a radioactive or genetically produced spider on a field trip, Takuya Yamashiro got his powers from the last survivor of Planet Spider, Garia. He injected his blood into Takuya, granting him the same abilities as Peter Parker, and gave Takuya a bracelet, which allows him to change into his costume and acts as a web shooter. Some other abilities Takuya has that Peter doesn't include X-ray vision, as well as night vision, precognitive dreams that warn him of the future, communication with other spiders, longevity aging, meaning he can age much slower, and of course, transfer his powers to others. Lastly, instead of web swinging, his transportation is usually flying in a missile car, the Spider Machine GP7. He also pilots a spacecraft called the Marveler that can transform into a giant robot called Leopardon, which allows him to fight giant monsters. Like Yu Komori, his initial motivation isn't great power, great responsibility. Instead, it's a quest for revenge against Professor Monster and the Iron Cross Army for the death of his father. The series lasted from March 17, 1978 to March 14, 1979, along with a film premiering at the Toei Manga Matsuri Film Festival on July 22, 1978. Even though the live-action Spider-Man movies performed well in Japan, for the Raimi trilogy, the first film grossed about $58.9 million, converted to 9,294,537,800 yen. The second film made about $59.5 million, which converts to 9,390,171,000 yen. And the third film made about $58.3 million, which converts to 9,201,401,550 yen. The total amount is $176.7 million, which is actually 27,893,108,600 yen. For the Mark Webb films, the first made about $39.2 million, which converts to 6,187,073,200 yen, and the second film grossed about $32 million, which converts to 4,766,531,500 yen. The total amount is $69.4 million, which is actually 10,955,345,200 yen. With the Home trilogy, Homecoming made about $25.3 million to 3,994,250,150 yen. Far From Home made about $28.1 million to 4,436,371,800 yen. And No Way Home was the highest grossing of the trilogy, earning more than $36 million to about 5,684,778,108 yen. When you add them all up, the live-action Spider-Man film franchise in Japan has made about $335,800,000, which is about 53 billion yen. There were other mangas released in the mid-2000s, and only recently. Like in 2004, Comic Bomb Bomb introduced Spider-Man J to a young audience with a cute chibi-looking style. The main character's name in the Japanese version is Sho Amano, but was renamed Peter Parker for the English release. I haven't quite read that series, but from what I've heard, he's a 15-year-old superhero who tries to stop a supervillain known as Lord Gokibu in Japanese, and Lord Bustus in English, from stealing the fossil of the Insect King. Along the way, he meets Japanese versions of Elektra, Doctor Doom, and the Fantastic Four. In 2019, Yusuke Osawa created Spider-Man Fake Red, and it got an English release by Viz Media in 2023. This story follows Yu Onamae, an awkward high school student who finds an abandoned Spider-Man costume in an alley. Because he doesn't have superpowers, he's put under a lot of pressure and learns that social media and photos aren't the only thing about being a superhero, as he puts on the costume, which in fact belongs to Peter Parker. So Yu tries to search for him while facing real danger. This one I've read and thoroughly enjoyed. Then came Spider-Man Octogirl, a continuation of the Superior Spider-Man series released in 2023. After fighting the classic Spider-Man, Otto Octavius fell into a coma and then woke up in a body of a young girl named Atoha Akutamiya. She is a Japanese middle school student who coexists with Otto in the same body, and together, they navigate life in school while also fighting crime. This slice-of-life comedy manga was written by Hideaki Furuhashi and illustrated by Benton Court, the same duo who created My Hero Academia Vigilantes. In 2025, the manga crossover series Ultraman, Along Came a Spider-Man was released. While in a battle with Dr. Doom, Spider-Man gets transported to a Japanese universe where large kaiju monsters exist. He teams up with the Giant of Light, Ultraman, to stop Dr. Doom, Alien Mephiles, and other villains. Peter also learns to adapt his life in Japanese culture, like trying tuna sashimi and getting a job at SSSP. Around the same year, there was a separate manga title, Shadow Warrior Spider-Man Original Manga, also referred to as Spider-Man Shadow Warrior. It follows Peter Parker, Miles Morales, and Gwen Stacy traveling to a parallel universe of feudal Japan. They track down Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, who established himself as governor of Edo and uses an alien symbiote which he uses as a weapon to overpower the society. It bonds with a young boy named Hyo and becomes a new incarnation of Venom. For this last subject, there were a couple of Marvel comics released in the early 2000s and 2006 called Marvel Mangaverse with a manga-influenced art style. It's the same Peter Parker, but his origin is reimagined through the lens of martial arts and Japanese mythology. Instead of getting bit by a spider, he was trained by his uncle and sensei Ben. Although his costume and mask are the same to some degree, they are more of a representation of a clan tradition rather than a superhero costume he sewed himself. Later, he would train his girlfriend Mary Jane Watson, and she took the identity of Spider-Woman. Now, whether this counts as a manga is debatable and depends on the person viewing it. You could say this doesn't inherently count as a manga as it was produced in the United States and not Japan, because when we say manga, we refer to comic books or graphic novels made in Japan. And personally, I agree with that. They were also created by American artists, primarily Ben Dunn, who is a pioneer of American manga style. On the other hand, in Japan, the word manga applies to all kinds of comic books regardless of its national origin. So if the Marvel Mangaverse has been released in Japan, Japanese people would still call those comics manga. Some people could also call something like this an Amerimanga. Well, that's about all I've covered in this video regarding Spider-Man's history in Japan. Are there any other things you might be aware of that I'm not? Feel free to add them in the comments. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in another video.